to start a sign-up sheet. If you can please sign up. Other than that, what we're going to do today is give you a little guide through the Wild West so that you can figure out how you're going to reap the rewards without taking the risk. And we will be doing that. Coming up with a program, we're going to identify factors that you should look for, how to qualify with the lighting system, what the best bang for the buck in your facility might be, and the best news is we're going to give you some ideas on how you can do this without having any budget, no money out of pocket, because you'll be able to save more energy and cost each month than what your lighting system costs each month. So basically, why instead of supporting the electric company, you get to upgrade your facility, and a lot of times you'll even have extra money left over for other projects. So today, as part of your guide, what we're going to do is explain why we think LED is similar to the Wild West, what the best bang for your buck is, what the best applications for LED lighting are, the benefits that you'll all receive, and we have questions on what really is the play to make with LED versus fluorescent. We'll show you some new and innovative products. We just have a few up here today. The rest are down at our booth, and we only have a sampling here right now. We're manufacturer direct to 27 different USA-based manufacturers. And then the other thing is, at the end, we're going to have 30 seconds of self-promotion. It's just going to be blatant self-promotion, so you guys can hang in and get 59.5 minutes of regular. So, what really is the difference between LED and existing? First thing I wanted to ask is, does anybody know, what does LED stand for? Give that man a prize. Right there, yes. So basically you get a Logical Green Solutions sticky note and then a choice of any of the bulbs in the magic box. So we have point of variety. While he's considering his choices on that, next slide. Why is LED lighting the new Wild West? And I don't know, how many of you have done research on LED so far and would say that you're someplace in that range of, I know enough to be really dangerous? Yeah, because when you're out there, if you notice that first picture, we had a guy in the middle of a plateau in the Wild West, because sometimes you get out there, I know the very first time we started, I did a little internet search, and 4 days later when I got off the computer, I was more confused than when I started. So that's because right now, LED is a rapidly growing energy-saving technology. It has a vast quantity of options. For one 60-watt incandescent bulb, I seriously can come up with 100 different options for you. Do you guys know what those options might be? Give me some idea.
Color.
Color is the first man. Give the man a prize up there in front. You've got color. You have beam angle. You have lumens. You have efficacy. You've got heat distribution. Physical shape. An LED bulb has a heat sink on it. It makes the bulb a little longer sometimes. Sometimes it makes it a little wider. Sometimes it makes it so it doesn't fit in the fixture at all. All these things you have to consider when you're doing your bulb replacements. Then there's also vast differences in quality, price, and integrity. So, as I said, our main goal today is try to help you figure out how you can reap the rewards without taking on that additional risk. So, back to the rapidly growing technology. It's more similar to an electronic device than a light bulb, really. And if you ever follow electronic devices, you remember 8-track cassette players, and those went to cassettes, and then they went to CDs, and we had vinyl in there, and then CDs, and now, is there anybody that has anything other than MP3s or on their computer? Everybody's streaming is all sorts of different options. That's very similar to how LED is progressing. LED is going to be the #1 commercial lighting. It's projected to be the #1 commercial lighting type. And I'm going to take a show of hands here. Who can guess by what year they're projecting it's going to be the #1 completely? In commercial. In the world. Yes?
Next year.
18.
Very close. Very close. I heard. Any other, it's going to be a public source we went to. So I have this magic number in my mind right now. Let's hear. Anybody else want to guess?
20.
I'm going to give you a warmer cold. It's lower. Higher than 16. It's 17. Another one. Yeah, they're saying by 2017, it's going to overtake every other type of light combined. And that is really good news on one hand, because we're going to be saving a lot of energy. It's going to make our jobs a lot easier, a lot more labor saving. On the other hand, Technology is going to continue to improve, and the price is going to continue to drop. What we've seen roughly in the last year, just rule of thumb, it's roughly going down by about 10% per year. There's certain bulbs that have dropped much quicker, like incandescents, because they're hitting the residential market. But as a rule of thumb, it's been dropping about 10%, but what's happening is the efficacy or the number of lumens per watt is going up. The technology is really cool. Some of our products, actually, all of our products that we're going to show you today up front didn't even exist on the market 6 months ago. So it's a rapidly developing thing. So when do you want to jump in? You have to look at that as part of your lighting goals. But what's of interest is as we're going through and we're doing our lighting audits, over 50% of our clients are seeing in the past month, when we go back past year rather, when you go back 12 months, that their electric bill has gone up anywhere between 8 to 10%. Has anybody checked their electric bill over the last 12 months to see what's happened with that? Anyone? It's one of those things that comes in, they pay it, someone probably cusses, throws it in the pile, and it's done. You don't really get to look at it. So back to the options, this is where I'm saying 120 different options for 160 watt bulb. And then you get into what do you do with metal halide, high pressure sodium, etc. Tons of options. It's a real challenge. It's one of the things we do is we research, test, and evaluate our manufacturers' products. It's a real challenge trying to stay up on top of it because every day there's something new that comes out. The other challenge is there are thousands of LED manufacturers throughout the world. And each of the, you can go to the next, and each of those has maybe 100 SKU numbers, so you end up with hundreds of thousands of products with a huge range in quality and legitimate how long they're going to last. So, another question for you guys. Did anybody ever own a Yugo? You did? You get a pity bulb.
That's very helpful.
What's the number one thing you remember about a Yugo? Anybody?
You for sure get to pick.
Anybody? Cheap, really cheap. My favorite story is a guy used a Yugo for a getaway car, and he's driving down the middle of Indianapolis, or Indiana on a straightaway, and his steering wheel came off in his hand. Favorite getaway car story. So, cheap. That is right now you can go online, you can go overseas, and you can get products that are $3, $4, $5, $10. All I'm going to say is, you go. Next one. Then you can move up to something that's more common. USA made, or at least from USA company. Probably has a lot assembled overseas, a lot of components that go in from overseas. But it's something that you can count on. It's going to work every day. It's not going to go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, but it's something that is going to be a reliable, everyday workhorse. Most of the commercial bulbs fall into this category. However, there are bulbs that are like brand new Lamborghini. You can get some that they're starting to push 200 lumens per watt. They're out there. High specialty niche markets. You can get, well, if it's anything, it's IP65 vapor type. Or vibration proof, blast proof. You go to the next one then. You can actually get some that are out there like a nitro dragster. We just did a quote for, they wanted a vibration proof, blast proof application with an IP65 rating. The fixture is worth $2 grand a piece. And these are just little 400 watt metal halide replacements. But their claim to claim is you can dump a full ocean container of water on them. You can immerse them, you can run them over with a front-end loader, and it just goes, but they're 2,000 piece. So how do you know which one you're going to drive? What we suggest you do is consider and evaluate your options. Number one is, what's the cost? How does it perform? What are the aesthetics? A lot of times as a facility manager or plant manager or building owner, it's like, aesthetics, just give me the performance. But there's those times when you need the aesthetics for approvals. Reliability, warranty, where is it being warranted, where is the company located, can you drive and knock on the door, or do you have to take a boat to paddle overseas? Qualifications and certifications, that's UL, ETL, DLC, Light Consortium, different LM79, 78, 80, there's all different certifications that are out there. And then most importantly, what's the shortest route so you can reap the rewards? You can easily get into that whole decision-making process and just get stagnated and keep on churning and churning and churning and evaluating. So, what is the best bang for the buck in your facility? First thing is we recommend identify your challenges and issues. So whether that be, I just want to save money and decrease my electrical expenses because my electric bills are going up 10%, or I'm tired of replacing bulbs and ballast because that's all I do. I'm out there every day, one goes out. We were working with a hotel group with conference rooms, and the hotel manager, that's the number one thing, he goes, I don't care about anything else. I don't want ballast, and I don't want these little incandescent candelabras. He goes, every time we have a wedding, I have to go out and I have to send a guy in right an hour before the wedding when they have the reception. I guarantee you, 3 or 4 times, we end up with a call because a bulb is out. It's just one of those things in time. There's also bulbs that have been outlawed by the government. You can't manufacture, or you can still sell them, you can still buy them, you can't manufacture them anymore or anything like that. There's also landfill and disposal concerns. Times you have low light quality. We've walked into buildings where this is actually the light quality in a manufacturing or assembly plant. It's terrible. Hazardous chemical disposal that gets into the mercury that's in fluorescent, plus glass and phosphorus. And then also, there's also a need to improve sustainability. How many people here have a sustainability program? Am I hearing crickets? Okay, we're going to skip that part. Next. Second thing is evaluating your existing condition. And this is critical if you're looking at it from a cash flow or an energy saving standpoint. First is, how long are your lights on? Not how many hours the business is open. When the first light goes on in the morning to when the cleaners turn on at night. If you have anything that's 24/7, probably should have already done it. Anything that's on 12 hours a day in most cases, anything that's exterior dusk to dawn, those are all easy, low-hanging fruit that you should be able to come up with a program where you don't have to pay anything up front, and it'll cash flow positive just from the energy savings. Second thing is age of your lighting system. If you have an old lighting system that you're changing ballast, let's say if it's on 24/7, that's 5 years you're changing ballast and bulbs. 10 years if it's on 12 hours a day. That's when you get into that cycle where you know when that first ballast dies, you're going to be replacing them over and over again. Excellent time to look at, let's upgrade them now. Instead of paying $30 for a ballast and a half an hour or something going on a high lift, let's get it changed out. The other thing is kilowatt hour rate. In the general area, we're at roughly 14 cents. And I say roughly because in the 4-county area even, we've seen everything from 8.5 cents up to a high of 16 cents a kilowatt hour. We've done a project in Alaska, and this will be another opportunity. Price is Right rules, you can't go over that means. How much do you think the job in Alaska, what their kilowatt hour rate was? Any guesses?
21.
Higher. Higher.
75.
Higher.
100.
Lower.
90.
Lower.
85.
Higher.
85.
87.
87! Another one! 87 cents. They're paying 87 cents. This job was in McGrath, Alaska. The entire city was 285 people. They actually found us on the web. Michael does our website program. Kudos on that one. Right here. He's stocking up on it. He's stocking up on it. And we got a call. They were replacing T5 tubes. And the first thing we heard, we're like, replacing T5 tubes? Why would you want to do that? They're not that bad. Of all the fluorescents, they're not that bad. And he goes, we're paying 87 cents a kilowatt hour right now. Oh! They replaced T5 tubes, T8 tubes, exterior lighting for the town. And as we're running through, I'm like, why is your electric rate 87 cents? Well, in McGrath, Alaska, you have 3 ways to get there. Barge down the river, chartered flight from Fairbanks or Anchorage, and then the third one was Iditarod dogs. He actually listed as the third way to get product to site. We're like, so you never know what the needs are. It's just one of those things. They said, we don't even care what the ROI is because by the time we plug in the bulbs, it's gone. It's already paid for itself. Next one is what the type of existing lighting you have is. So some common energy hogs up on the board of existing light types. You'll notice some have the no smoking sign for. Anybody guess why that is? Another bulb. These bulbs, there are certain ones that have been outlawed by the government. Now I'm going to give you my 2-second off-the-record political thing, don't repeat, but I don't understand how they can outlaw light bulbs. But yet you can buy cigarettes and you can buy alcohol. I mean, they're not complaining about that. They decided to outlaw light bulbs. Incandescent bulbs, you only can get specialty ones now. Pretty much they're going to be gone soon. Higher wattage, MR16 halogens, those are going by the wayside. And then some of the bigger par 38s, they're gone. R30s, they're gone. As a business owner, makes me really happy. As a consumer, I don't get it. But that's what they did. The other ones that are gone on the bottom are the good old T12s. Yeah, they're getting harder to find. It's challenging. So that's another reason to upgrade, because if you have that older technology, in that case, the reason that does make some sense is you're saving between 75 and 85% of your electricity. Third thing to look at is what are the ideal applications for LED lighting, and this just comes in sort of a common sense type thing. If you think about what is the worst bulb, the one that you hate to replace, you always want to delegate to somebody else. So anything that's got a bucket truck, a high lift, one of the local universities has a theater that has narrow aisleways. In order to change the power lights that are up in the ceiling, which die every 2,000 hours, they have a 2-foot wide by 3-foot wide custom lift that the only way they can do OSHA compliance is you have to have 4 guys on the corners, because you can't put outriggers on. 4 guys and 1 guy up, and it goes up 40 feet. I wouldn't want to be that guy. Perfect application. Need to improve light quality, reduce heat, avoid UV degradation. Anybody in produce, ag, food service, printing, retail, graphics, anybody in the room that's in those industries? One? Ag, right, if I remember?
Yeah.
In ag, they found out that farm animals, especially cows, have a higher milk production when you use LED lights because it doesn't have the flickering from the fluorescent tubes and it doesn't have a UV output. Just a real bizarre thing. Never even knew that before. Need for vibration resistance if you're in a heavy manufacturing or in a vehicle or something that would work well, the LEDs work well. Cold temperatures, LEDs are good down to, anybody have an idea? 40 below. 40 below. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Same thing.
Same thing, yes. Give him 2. Give him 2. A lot of people don't know that. It converges at 40 degrees. The other thing is improving sustainability, which we aren't going to talk about because nobody cares about in the room, so we're going to move to the next one.
What about heat?
Yes, heat is another area. If you've got a problem with heat, we've done salons where they have like 3 bulbs above where the nail techs are doing the ladies' nails, and the techs were getting burned on the top of their head from their existing
So
electricity.
what about the drivers we did some LED conversions in overhang,
Mhm.
and we were using LED bulbs.
Can we hold that one till the end? Because what we're going to do is, my goal is to whip through this, show you guys some products, and then do Q&A, and then we can take a lot of questions at the booth too, if we have enough time. But that's a great question, I have an answer for it. So what to look for, qualifications and certifications, I already mentioned, UL and ETL electrical inspectors usually insist upon. There are, I would say probably 80% of the bulbs that are on the market that are out there that you can even buy at certain retail stores that start with an M or an L or an H. You can buy residential quality products that are only CE and ROHS. They're not UL or ETL. Just as a side note, if you're putting them in you're rolling dice. If you would like, we have a handout. See Michael after this, and we'll take a business card. We actually have a handout that does cliff notes on 2 pages of UL, ETL, DLC, Energy Star, and then it also goes into the testing of what's the difference between LM79, LM80, TM21. That's what does the life, and that's how they do the projections on how long the lights are going. If anybody wants one of those, see Michael, he can email you a copy of that. Documentation and testing, that's why I went with the LM79, those are all in the test. And then the other thing to look for is, our recommendation is look for a warranty backed by a USA-based company, unless you want to travel to China. I mean, that's a good thing, or Korea, or wherever you want to go. So, moving on next. What benefits will you receive? And this is no matter what your project is, you're going to get these benefits, even if you're only looking for one of them. Energy savings, maintenance time, or maintenance savings, which includes bulb replacement and labor hours saved. So you have extra time to do other things, or maybe even breathe sometimes. Improving the light quality. There's no hazardous disposal because the LED bulbs do not have mercury in them. No UV output unless you order special UV bulbs. There's typically no glass, and there's also less heat generated. This is just a chart that's really, I know what I see now, it's really hard to see. So I'm going to put on my glasses here. I'm going to cross. On the left This is a lighting cost of ownership, and this is over the life of LED. So depending on what the project is, that's going to range anywhere from $25,000 to some of the smaller bulbs or bulb replacements, up to we have some that are rated at $100,000. And what it shows is your initial cost on LED is actually fairly significant up front, but it's more of an investment because over the life of the LED, they're using $111,000 worth of electrical expense. On the right is your existing light system, in this case, $4,000 for the initial cost, but 4 times the amount of energy consumed, over $400,000. Plus, if you figured in, I think this one we ran through at $35 an hour for maintenance, plus bulb replacements, there's over $70,000 of maintenance. So when you add this up together, if you notice, it's roughly 25% of the total cost over the life of the LED. But it's just getting that whole mindset. It's tough on approvals. You have to convince everybody else up the food chain, if there is other people above, that this long term is going to pay off quite a bit. So one of the questions we get quite often, and when we did our little survey, thanking everybody to fill out the survey ahead of time, was what's really the difference between LED compared to fluorescent? And fluorescents are cheap. They're very cost effective right now at an initial cost. However, the advantage to do the LED is you're going to get much greater energy savings. It's typically 50% more than your fluorescents. You don't have any ballasts. You're improving the light quality. If you look at CRI, anybody know what CRI stands for?
Color rendering?
Color rendering index. Okay, now for the double bonus round. What is a color rendering index, typically a fluorescent versus an LED?
The LED shallower than,
I'm looking for rating numbers, do you know? Anybody in the room know?
80. I think a fluorescent will typically go 65 to 80.
Mhm.
And the LEDs, you can look for 75 to 95.
That's what, yes, thank you. And what color rendering index does is, if you look at a color document with text under fluorescent lighting, which we can do later, we can show you this, is it's sort of, you can see the colors and such, but when you look under LED, it's much crisper. I apologize, I thought I had killed that. It's a much crisper light. Sorry about that. Much crisper light, much easier to read. Our favorite story on that was if we walk into a walk-in cooler and you have meat and produce and everything has its labels on, a lot of times people have taken that energy savings and they've gone from an incandescent bulb to a CFL. Well, you're in a freezer cooler scenario, the CFL is working at maybe 75% of it, and it has a lower CRI. You plug in an LED bulb. In fact, this one here that we have right here is a great replacement for that. And it's amazing, we'll have guys standing at the end of the walk-in cooler. They walk into the walk-in cooler with a flashlight so they can walk up to the box and read the label. When you put on the LED light, they're standing 6-8 feet away, and they're like, oh my God, I can read my labels from here. So they don't need the flashlight anymore. Other items is the same thing, no glass, less heat generated, longer life. LED bulbs are typically 50,000, fluorescents about 20. That does not include a switchability factor. Does anybody know what a switchability factor is in fluorescent?
fluorescent light goes down with increased on-off cycles.
Yep, give the man a bulb. Every time you turn a fluorescent light, CFL or tube on, off and on, it loses, it depreciates its life value significantly. That's why a lot of people are saying, you know, my CFL is rated at 10,000 hours. It lasts me a year or two. Why is that? Because they're turning it off and on. With an LED, it's an electronic device. It doesn't care. You can turn it off and on as many times as you want. Operates well in cold temperatures, and there's also financing options that may apply. Believe it or not, you can finance your bulbs, you can lease your bulbs, or as of January this year, we actually have a funding source where you can rent the bulbs. What that means is, do we have anybody that's a CFO in the audience by chance? Good, all right. Oh, no, you can't, you don't count, sorry. Matt's with us, so he doesn't count. He already knows this. Yeah, he already has. So, what the CFO often looks at, they look at an expense account, because your electric bill's in an expense account, and they're equating it to something what they consider a light bulb upgrade or a lighting upgrade in an asset account. They have a problem explaining how they can get that expense over the asset. If you rent the bulbs, you can actually have an expense account, go to an expense account. I really don't understand it because I don't play a CPA on the radio, but if you have that concern and that might be something that helps with the approvals, you can mention to them you can rent, lease, or finance. And that way there's no money out of pocket. Disadvantages, unfortunately, if you go to LED, your electric company makes less money. So we're going to go through some new and innovative products. Jess, do you want to do the plug? So we're going to run through first some upgrade fixtures that have similar aesthetics, the LED retrofit kit, some direct wire and bypass balance tubes, plug and play, and then we're also going to the modern aesthetics on the LED retrofit kit. We do have a ton of other options, also have new fixtures and panel lights. Check us out at the booth afterwards if you'd like to see those. So next. I think you're going to have to plug in for that.
That one doesn't plug in.
Oh, you know what, that one, if you could just ban away with it, just. So this is a new kit that came out last October. If you want to flip it around, on the back you see 4 shiny little circles that are actually rare earth magnets. So this comes in a 2x2 kit. Instead of having 3 U-tubes, if you look above your head, you have a 2x2 kit that would have either 2 tubes or 3 tubes that you basically gut the system. You're keeping the same parabolics, same housing. Pull it out, you snip the wires at black and white, pull out the post, pull out the ballast, remove all that, get rid of it. This snaps into place with the magnets. Your hand's free. You put in 2 self-tapping screws. There's a box that gets 2 self-tapping screws that has magnets that covers it up so it's UL rated. You close up the fixture on a ladder. We've been averaging less than 10 minutes apiece. And that's 85,000 hours, 7-year life, and if you're in Focus on Energy, it is warranty. Warranty, it's a, thank you, 7-year warranty, 85,000 hour life, and it has a $25 Focus on Energy rebate for the 2x4, and $15, I believe, for smaller. If anybody's working in Rochester, Minnesota area, that's a $50 rebate and a $25 rebate.
If you're working in a multifamily application, also the rebate goes up to $30.
Thank you. Give him a label. The next one we can actually plug in, and this is Orion's new LDR, and very similar. You've got everything out, but then there are these 2 brackets. 2 brackets sit up in the fixture like this. You just lay them in.
Not shining this anyway.
Not too bad. We'll ask Pete. We'll shine on Peter and ask him to confess later on. And then this just clips in. Same. Van Vergen last night. Yeah. Same thing. Clips in under 10 minutes on a ladder. And this, the difference between the LDR or the LDR you want to use if you want to change aesthetics. The other one if you want to keep the same parabolic or acrylic lens. And that is. That one has a 90,000 hour life and 5-year warranty. The next one is, you're going to grab one of the tubes. We have direct line feed LED tubes that, what that means is you pull out the fluorescent tubes, you bypass the balance, you make it single line feed, and then these just plug into the existing post, if they are non-shunted posts. Otherwise, you have to change out the tombstones to non-shunted. Very cost effective, but from a labor standpoint, you're looking at probably 20 to 30 minutes of fixture. It's about as long as it takes you to change a ballast. Next one. Oh, I thought we had one more plug in.
No.
I'm supposed to mention the plug and play. We also have a tube at the booth that is also came out the last couple months. How many are familiar with the Philips InstaFit? Basically, the InstaFit, you plug in, and as long as you have a T8 tube with a instant start ballast, you're good to go. However, when the ballast dies, you have to replace the ballast. With the plug and plays that we have, they're compatible with 90% of T8s, 70% of T12s. So you can just pull up the tubes, plug them in, and then when the ballast dies, you can bypass the ballast, go to single end feed, and you're running direct wired, direct line voltage. A lot more flexibility. What's nice from a facility standpoint is if you want to do your entire facility, but you don't have time to go through and mess around with rewiring everything, you can go and have the guy that just can replace light bulbs, go through, replace all the light bulbs. If the ballasts are bad, the bulbs are going to go on either at half bright or they're not going to go on at all. those are the only ones you have to direct line feed, and then as the ballasts die in the future, you can pick up your maximum energy savings and bypass them.
What's basically the watt usage when you're using the existing ballast?
Can you hold that one to the end also? I'd like to take all the questions then because I know I'm getting the time clock in the back already going. So if you could hold the question on the end, I'll take it. So the big question right now that you might have in mind, I know a lot of clients have in mind, is just, do I save now and do it now, or do I just wait? So what we have is a little chart here, or a little narrative real quick of a 70,000 square foot manufacturing plant, where we're going up. Energy use difference is they'd be saving 163,000 kilowatt hours. That results for them is an electrical savings of over $22,000 per year, and that's as they're paying for the system. The lighting system's being paid for already, and they're still saving $22,000. So, does anybody have a project in mind that they might use $22,000 in a year for? Anyone? You just raise your hand, no question. That's an easy one. Okay, yes, what is your project that you use $22,000 for?
I'm doing a lot of asphalt work.
That's a bold. So, I mean, there's just so many things you're like, wait, I could have extra money by upgrading my lights. So basically, you're paying yourself to upgrade your lights, and it's just getting everybody in the whole company to understand this makes sense because not only are we going to make the light better, it's going to save me some time, it's going to save you some money. And the annual cost of waiting, if you would say, let's wait a year, was $23,000 because that also includes some bulb replacement and some maintenance time. Yes. So, our suggestion is reap the awards right now. Take the action, find a trusted LED expert, figure out what your real challenges and solutions are challenges and issues are right now. Establish your goals. Do you want to just save money? Do you want to change the aesthetics? Do you want to keep them the same? Schedule a lighting evaluation and audit so that you can tell, here's what our existing is, here's what our new would be, so you have hard, definable, measurable, and trackable data. We know that CFOs love that stuff. They eat it up. As soon as they get the electric bill and they can go, hey, you told me we were going to save $10,000 and oh, we're saving $11,000, I'm happy. Evaluate your LED lighting options because there are lots of options out there. And then also look at what you can do to expedite your project. Will it do financing, leasing, or renting? And you'll have more money and more time. So the action I want you to take is do something. You'll have extra money and extra time. Is there anybody here that doesn't need extra money or extra time? You don't have to have both. All right, so blatant self-promotion. Come visit us at booth 1639. Look for the glowing pylon. You can touch, feel, check out some of us, a sampling of some of our lights. We have 2 of our manufacturers reps that are there right now. A number of products. We've got 4 different tables that you can check out. And then if you want, we have time where you can share your lighting challenges and goals. And then through March 31st, we have a 10% discount that if you use the LGS PFMA A10 discount, you get 10% off of any of our standard pricing. And we look forward to guiding you through the Wild West of LED lighting. It's a lot of fun. So, next, now we have Q&A time, and Jessica is going to be passing out a little survey. If you guys could please fill that out, we appreciate your feedback, we can improve this. So, question number 1.
Quick question. First of all, say you have 2 800-watt blue LEDs. What's really the perceived light difference between, say, you got a 2700K and 65K? I mean, one looks totally brighter, they both have the same.
That's an excellent question, and that's why we have our little light here today. There is something, a little bit of a misnomer when you're running through and using foot candles or lumens or lux as the criteria. So you walk around with your light meter, like, oh, I'm at about 25 lumens right here, or foot candles right now. And you put an LED in that's the same exact, theoretically, amount of lumens. A, it's going to appear brighter because the CRI is higher. B, if you look at, I've got to see what colors we have here. There's a 2700, and I believe, nope, another 27. I may not have one of that. Oh, there we go. 4,000. Oh, you know what? You are correct. Thank you for that. There's your 5,000. That actually has less wattage. Those are using the same amount of watts. roughly the same amount of lumens, but this one is going to be much brighter appearing. It's because your eye sees it as a brighter light. Same amount of lumens. If you have 2700, 4000, and 5000, 27 is the warmest, 5000 is the coolest, people perceive the light differently. It's just how, if you go in, if you want to spend a lot of time reading third-party articles on how cones and rods perceive light, once again, I can't explain that. It's just one of those things. We had fluorescent in our conference room for a while. We had a fluorescent 2x4 fixture and LED replacement tubes. 3 40-watt fluorescents for the ballast, and we had 48 watts total. There was actually less foot candles at the table by 2 foot candles, and now what we had clients went through, everyone picked the LED as brighter, and it was just the color was brighter and the CR is higher. That answer?
Yeah, so I was just wondering if there's anything out there that would actually really measure it to see what the perception here is.
I don't know of anything that will emulate the human eye accurately.
One other really quick question, which I haven't seen yet. Do you have any complete fixtures, class 1, bid 1 location for hazardous areas, LEDs?
I believe, because that's, if I remember, class 1 is blast and waterproof, correct?
Class 1, bid 1 is basically flammable liquids and fluids and stuff like that. In a lot of manufacturing areas, spray booth areas and stuff like
I
that.
think we have 2 manufacturers that make that. If you can get us the information, stop by the booth, get us the information, we can get that back to you. I think we have 2 manufacturers that make those. Those are very similar to the ones we were talking about before. Those are not cheap.
No,
But
not as soon as you say this one.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any yet, but good
I think we have 2 that have those. If you have a question?
Yes.
All right. Wait. Give them that a light bulb.
I was on my way walking as soon as you said I would do that.
Honey, milk and eggs, can you pick them up on the way back from the seminar? I hope we have that on tape, because that you might make Facebook or
That is awesome. The question I have is overheating of LED light bulbs and exterior overhang.
Yes, you have to be very cognizant of that, because it goes back to heat sinks and what the ventilation is. If there is no ventilation and it's truly a sealed condition, you only can go to certain manufacturers with certain products that will guarantee that. Otherwise, even though an LED puts out significantly less heat, for example, an incandescent bulb like this good old puppy over here, oops, that one. That is a 60-watt light bulb. 90% of the energy goes to heat, 10% goes to light. When you go to an LED, you're using roughly a quarter of the wattage already, and you're also 80% of the energy is going to light and only 20%, but you still have that heat component. They will get warm, and if you put them in an area that is totally enclosed and they cannot vent, they will burn up. You will reduce the life tremendously. So there are fixtures out there that either can get an active cooling system with a fan, that they'll rate it for a seal, but it is a challenge, especially when you get into the MR16 world. MR16s are a pain.
Do they have any documentation on the driver life?
Yes.
That's really what's.
It's burned, yeah. What'll happen is it'll get too hot, and the reason LEDs have heat sinks is to keep it cool, because they operate better cool. They're more efficient at -40 than they are at 40. They're much more minus efficient, or at 40, they're much more efficient than at 100. They also have, if you look at the LM79, LM80, and TM21 reports on the life depreciation, they also have a temperature range. And that's where it gets into, because what it'll do is it will reduce the life of the LED because the driver will fail. Anybody else? Yes?
I have a question about the high bay fixture. So your recommendation for replacing 400 watts high bay HID lights will be LED 150 or 200 watts. And my question is, the LED light 200 watts going to have what output? Maybe 20,000 lumens or 20?
It depends upon the solution and the manufacturer. This goes back to when I say options. With a 400 watt metal halide, we'd be asking you, what's the application? Is it in a low bay? Is it in a medium bay? Is it in a high bay? Different solutions. Is it a fixture that is in good condition that you want to retrofit and upgrade? Or is the fixture old enough that it's not in that great a shape that you want to replace it with a new fixture? We walk through all that, identify the conditions, get your goals, and not just, otherwise we can say, hey, put this in there, and it may not be the right bulb for you.
Yeah, the problem is lumen output of the HID 400 watts will be maybe 36,000 lumens.
When it's new.
When it's new, okay. But the significant lower output is on the replacement LED. What's gonna happen if I am replacing them in the warehouse, which they are not that old, and I come up with 50 or 100 fixtures, which are 40% less output, and then I didn't reach the enough level of the light on the floor.
Absolutely. So that goes back to that very first question we had with CRI and how your eyes perceive it. And the other thing is, depending on what type of warehouse it is, we have to know, is there, even though, certain jurisdictions, food safety, for example, certain manufacturing applications, you have to have that foot candles. It doesn't matter. The people may be going, oh my God, it's too bright. You have to bring in that foot candle. A lot of times, you'll be able to take a 400 watt metal halide, replace it with a 200 or a 150 LED, that you may have 30,000 lumens, you're dropping down to 20,000 lumens, but if you put those side by side and you look at the light quality and the color and how the metal halide appreciates really rapidly,
Yeah,
it appears to be brighter. So there's a lot of things, that's what we're saying, go through and figure out what the goals of the project are, what you really want to do, and what your existing conditions are before we just jump in. That gives you a ton of different options. So, that's once again, I hate to say that.
Yeah,
Stop down at the booth, give me some more information, we can tell you what direction to head. Yes?
If I could just add to that, this might help. I work for a lighting service company. In-ground floods illuminating a building facade. We removed 175 watt metal halides. We installed 20 watt LEDs with a color temperature of 5,700, very high. All the employees say that the building is better lighted now than it was before. From 175 to 20, the difference is in the color temperature and the way your eyes see it. You will believe that's brighter, and it is.
And there's one more factor, and I'm glad you brought that up. LEDs are very directional. Where the LEDs face, that's where you light. So, for example, you think of a fluorescent tube. It throws lumens 360 degrees all over the place. LED, if you're only working down here, you're not doing indirect lighting, you only want light at the work surface, you can already take off half those lumens, because you don't need them, they're going up into the reflector, God only knows where. Half the lumens can be reduced that way, and then depending on where your work area, now we have to look at the beam angle. Do you want something that is narrow and spotted? Do you want something that's a general flood? This goes back to all those options you have to consider. But that's probably, I'm going to be willing to bet your LEDs were directional in that case also, and that 125 was relying on the reflector to get up on the building.
Well, actually, it was a barrel-shaped LED, what we refer to as a corn cob.
Sure.
Okay, omnidirectional, placed in a fixture with a reflector to
Oh, so you use the-
redirect it.
okay, so you still use the reflector.
There is a reflector involved, yes.
There's also options, that's one option for that. Sometimes the corn cobs are hard to get to fit in those wall packs or the upright
Yes.
floods. There's another option where you can get, like it's a half a corn cob. We have one at the booth that is basically a flat LED panel with the heatsink on the back, and you can then direct it, which means you can even further reduce the wattage. Yeah, all sorts of options. Next question, we actually have, must have been talking fast, we have a couple minutes. Yes?
On the direct line feed tubes, voltage,
Usually
multiple?
ours are mostly 110 to 277.
Okay,
If you get out in other parts of the world, there are other options, you just have to custom order them.
and is that the same tube at 120 or 277?
Going back to all the differences is in an LED tube, the driver replaces the ballast in the brains. It's what we call the ballast in the brains. It's the power supply of the driver, everything. It's all programmed into the driver. If at some point in time, let's say they move the facility and move the labs, you could actually go back and replace that driver and swap it over.
And also are those dimmable?
You can get them dimmable, but it's an extra $4 a tube. Yeah, we have, in our conference room, we've had dimmable tubes replaced since 2011.
And they dim nicely or?
That is, back to options. Things that are a challenge from a facility standpoint. MR16s and tubes and dimming. You have to know what's the existing dimmer that you're using. You may or not be able to use that existing dimmer, I should say, you can use existing dimmer, but you can get that little jumpiness down, and sometimes depending on what the manufacturer is, also makes a difference on how far down it'll dim. There are some LED tubes that only dim down to about 50%, really. We have some that drop down to 10. Same thing when you get into MR16s, which between MR16s, those little PL tubes, those are my two least favorite bulbs in the world. The MR16s, you have to now know what's the dimmer, what type of transformer do they have? Is it the original transformer, have they replaced it? And then also look at, back to your question, is an MR16, if it's got an enclosed lens on the front, well, likely to remove that lens. So there's all sorts of things that you have to figure out. Anybody else? Going once, twice, sold. Come on down.
Let's
visit
pick
us
let's pick
at
up the
booth.
handout.
Glad to answer the specific questions. And let us know how we can help. Oh, and if you would please turn in the